working tomorrow?
No, I'm off tomorrow. All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, our higher praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash.
The honors to the elders of the great millstone, sing honors to the apostles of the great millstone as well, and the like-minded camp and brothers. We're going to continue on in Daniel 11, which before we start that, I want to mention some errors I made and that the brother made in the last video. Some things we said that, because when you go into this chapter, you got to realize that there's a lot of information and a lot of details, and this is really the first time me and the brother are breaking this chapter down. And so I'm bringing out my own information, he's bringing out his information. It's all the same, though. We have the same doctrine. It's all the same breakdown as GMS. But yeah, it can get confusing because I'm bringing out my information and the brother's bringing out his information. But I said something in those. So if we make any mistakes, any like errors, and it's not because we're trying to change the doctrine or nothing like that. We're not. It's just if we make any errors while we do this breakdown, it's because it's a lot of information what we're getting out that we can.
Yeah, there's a lot of history in here, and there's a lot of there's also a lot of these people in this chapter that are being mentioned. They go by a lot of different names as well. Okay, so sometimes it can be confusing as to who is who, right? So now, when you deal with certain kings and whatnot, their names, sometimes that can be confusing because at the time they would have been called multiple different names as well. Just to make that point.
Yeah, they have multiple names, and there's specific errors that I made. Like I said that I mentioned Darius the Mede off the Cyrus, which that was incorrect. He tried to, but he didn't successfully kill Cyrus, because that wouldn't have made sense because Cyrus still was ruling after Darius died. And then I mentioned something else in the last video, like Darius ruled the longest, which that was false. And then I said I also said I said that I thought Belshazzar was Nebuchadnezzar's son or his captain, but that was off. He was actually Nabonidus' son, the son of Nabonidus, and Nabonidus he wasn't even related to Nebuchadnezzar, but really Nabonidus was he would have been the actual ruler of Babylon at that time. And I looked into it the other day, and you have something called the Nabonidus Chronicle, which that's where it mentions the downfall of Babylon, with the downfall of Babylon, and it mentions Darius the Mede there, but it doesn't mention him by that title, because that word name Darius the Mede was actually just a drone name. His name in that chronicle, the Nabonidus Chronicle, was Gabras, and then another name Gubaru, something like that. And then another, I'm just getting this list of mistakes I wrote that we made that
Yep.
I want to correct.
Yep, go ahead.
And then, so another mistake that we made was we said that, which we didn't realize we were making these mistakes while we made the video. It's just that, once again, it is a long chapter. It's a lot of history. That's why I was thinking of restarting it, but I don't really want to do that. I don't think brother really would want to do that.
Yeah, we can just correct it as we go.
And then, so another mistake we did was that we said that, I said that Cyrus was Darius the Mede's son, which that was off. That was off. Cyrus was not Darius the Mede's son. Cyrus was the grandson of, would have been the grandson of Darius the Mede on his mother's side. And then another mistake we said was the Medes are, wait, so like, oh, never mind, not that. Do you know if you have any idea of the, you know if the Babylonians were Median or Persian?
Babylonians were, let me check. I thought they were Assyrian because they were Chaldeans. Let me see.
Because we know the Assyrians go back to Iran, though, right?
No, Iran is the Persians. That's Persia, modern day. They used to actually be called Persia, and they changed their name to Iran. The Babylonians were the Chaldeans.
Assyrian.
Yeah, they broke off from the Assyrian Empire.
Those are two different people.
Yeah. They were a nomadic tribe, I believe. The Chaldeans.
Because I know the Persians were Elamites, and then the Japheth were the Medes. So that, what would that make the Babylonians? That they are Assyrian. Because I think you're actually right. They are Assyrian.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it real quick. Says. Yeah, they're descendants of Ashur, which is Shemitic. They're sons of Shem, who settled in southern Mesopotamia. It says it was a distinct group at the decline of the Assyrian Empire. The Chaldeans, often associated with the Neo-Babylonian Empire, succeeded the Assyrians. It says they're one of the they're not Assyrian themselves. They're a separate tribe, but they were influential. It says the Chaldeans played a significant role in the fall of the Assyrian Empire in the 7th century BCE. Ultimately, the Chaldeans established their own dominance in the region, leading to the rise of Babylon. Yeah, so they're their own tribe. They are Shemitic, though.
Yeah, because I said that Nebuchadnezzar was Median, which which that's not for sure. So I just want to correct that as well.
Yeah, Shemitic Shemitic peoples from southern Mesopotamia. It says today's modern Chaldeans are primarily descended from these ancient peoples, particularly within the Assyrian community. So yeah, I thought they were actually an Assyrian tribe. I think Ashur had a bunch of sons. I think one of them was this is his tribe, Chaldean. Let me look up his sons.
I just want to get who or the Babylonians. I want to be able. If
Yeah,
you're able to-
ancient Shemitic Mesopotamian tribe.
Well, while the brother's getting that, I'm gonna get this. And so these are some mistakes that we said, and so just want to correct those mistakes. And another thing I said was Cyaxares didn't know Nebuchadnezzar, which is false. Cyaxares, which was the father of Darius the Mede, because another name for secular name for Darius the Mede was his actual name was actually Cyaxares the second. So his father Cyaxares, he would have known Nebuchadnezzar. What is it? I just hope it's not some weirdo, man. So I was talking about that. Someone just knocking at the door. But yeah, I got Cyaxares was the king of the Medes, and Nebuchadnezzar the second, he was king of Babylon. They would have known each other well. They were close political allies who formed a coalition to conquer and destroy the Assyrian Empire. Yeah, because the Babylonians destroyed Assyria, so they might have been. They probably would have been. I don't know for sure, but they could have. You think they possibly could have? But from what you know, you think they possibly could have been Medes and Persian.
I'm not sure about that. I don't think they were Midianites. I think they were just a separate tribe.
So they weren't. You don't think they were Japheth or Elam?
No, they're definitely Shemitic. They're not Elam though. I'm trying to look up what nation they were in Genesis 10.
So we're just trying to figure out if what Babylonian was linking back to, whether they were Elam. We know that obviously they were Shem, but specifically if they were what tribe of Shem? Because there's like how many tribes of Shem?
Just a lot. You got a lot.
Just like Israel has like 12 tribes.
There's even more than 12 nations that are Shemitic. So technically,
Esau is technically Shemitic too.
Says the Babylonians are descendants from the Sumerians and Akkadians. It says in Genesis, Babylon is often referred to as Baal. The Tower of Babel story. The city of Babylon was a significant cultural, political center in ancient times. It is the country of astronomy. Nation often associated with Babylon. Okay. That give me what I wanted.
It says here that they knew each other. Basically, Nebuchadnezzar's father, Nebuchadnezzar, he would have known Cyaxares the second very well. He would have known his father Cyaxares very well. And then their sons would have known each other pretty well. Now it says they were close, because they got together to destroy Assyria. The Assyria, by the way, took down Northern Kingdom. And it says here, Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar married Amytis. Amytis was the daughter or granddaughter of Cyaxares. And then I also slipped my tongue and I said Darius the Mede was the grandfather of Darius the Great. What I meant to say was he was the grandfather of Cyrus the Great. Yeah, we can just get to where we left off again.
Okay, what verse was that?
It was probably verse 9.
Okay. So the king of the south shall come to his kingdom.
I got this last one though. The Buddha also mentioned in the last video that Artaxerxes was the fourth king, which that it could be confusing because Artaxerxes, it could have just been a title as well, just like Darius was a title, or Antiochus what could have been what could have was used as a title or throne name, but specifically what the Buddha meant was Xerxes.
Khan.
Artaxerxes was the son of Xerxes, though. Artaxerxes was the son of Xerxes. Yeah, I think we left off in verse 9.
All right, let me get this commentary real quick. This is the Chuck Smith. Okay, I had two commentaries that I used. I used Chuck Smith, but I also used the what was his name? Matthew Henry. Okay, so I had two, Matthew Henry and Chuck Smith. I'm reading off of the Chuck Smith right now. Starting at verse 9. Okay, this is Daniel chapter 11. Start at verse 9. It says, so the king of the south, okay, so remember when you're starting in this chapter, okay, you got to remember that these wars that are happening between the Edomites, all right, the Greeks. You had Alexander, you had his 4 generals who split that kingdom up, okay, in order to take power, okay, each one for themselves. So this king of the south that's being talked about in verse 9 is the Ptolemaic Empire. Okay, it says, so the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. Now, I want to go back to verse 8 just so we can get a little bit of context. And it shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods with their princes and with their precious vessels of silver and of gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. Okay. Now remember, this is I believe this is the fourth. Let me look this up real quick. The 4th Syrian War. Okay, you had 6 Syrian wars. Okay, that are counted. All right, so Ptolemaic Empire, Ptolemy, came into the northern Seleucid Empire, which was the king of the north. He shall come into his kingdom after he won that battle in the 4th. I believe that was the 4th war. Okay, it says, and shall return to his own land, which at the time the Ptolemaic Empire was ruling over Egypt. All right, let me get this real quick. Go ahead.
Interrupt you there.
Yep, go ahead.
Because when you going back up, you had Ptolemy the first Soter, and then you had on the Seleucid side you had Seleucus the first Soter, and they both had peace. Those are the original some of the original generals that knew would have known Alexander in his time. And then after them, you had their sons. Ptolemy II, Philadelphus. That's the king of the south. Ptolemy, right?
Yep.
Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, his son, and then Antiochus the first soldier. They had war.
Which Ptolemy and just so they know, Ptolemy and Antiochus, those are the names of the dynasties. Each dynasty had their own rule. Okay, so Ptolemy is just the name of it's like the surname, okay, or the leader name that they. Yep.
So they both had war, and that was the first Syrian war. Then and Ptolemy won that war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ptolemy won that war. Ptolemy is second Philadelphus. You guys watching can double check that as well. But yeah, Ptolemy. So we're saying Ptolemy the second Philadelphus won that war, and then Ptolemy the second Philadelphus goes to war in the second Syrian war. But this time it's with Antiochus the first soldier's son. That would be Antiochus the second Theos. And then that leads to the second Syrian war. Just double check that for me as well. After whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, right here. Chuck Smith says this his sons, the king of the north, was defeated by Eugrades, Ptolemy Eugrades. Okay, and they will assemble a multitude of great forces. One shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Okay, meaning those I believe those were the sons of Antiochus, the one that was killed by his wife. Okay, his sons. Okay, because remember, after it was Bernice, which was the Bernice was the daughter of, what was that, Ptolemy the second, that was married into the family of the Seleucid Empire. Okay, replacing the first wife of Antiochus the Great.
What did you just look up?
This is
No, what did you just look up?
right here. It's right here. It said the Ptolemaic Empire over Egypt. I was just gonna get some facts on that.
What verse are you on right now?
This is verse 9. Right here. It says, verse 9 again, so the king of the south shall come to his kingdom and shall return to his own land, but his son shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. One shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. The commentary says, this his sons, the king of the north, who was defeated by Eugrades. It says, and they will assemble a multitude of great forces. One shall certainly come and overthrow, pass through. Okay.
So what is verse 9 about? What is the two kings talking about?
Verse 9 is talking about Eugrades. Okay. Ptolemy Eugrades. Okay, he came after he defeated I believe that was Antiochus the third. Okay. His sons.
Okay, that would be Ptolemy the third.
Yeah, Eugrades.
Okay.
Yep. This his sons, the king of the north, who was defeated by Eugrades. It says, and he will assemble. That's talking about his sons. So that's talking about the sons of Antiochus. Okay. He will assemble. They will assemble a multitude of great forces. Basically, this is like a revenge plot. Okay, from the king of the north. A multitude of great forces. One shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Okay. This is Philopator, who is the Ptolemy Philopator. This was the next Ptolemy, who was the king of the south. At this time, he gathered together a great army, came against the king of the north. Well, that's actually the next verse 11 and 12. I'm getting ahead of myself. Verse 10. Yeah, verse 10. But his son shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up, even to his fortress. And the king of the south, which is Ptolemy, shall be moved with choler. Let me get that word. Choler.
Okay, you're moving way too ahead of me. I'm still
Okay,
on
go ahead.
verse-
What you got?
I'm still on verse 8. Like, this is just. It is confusing to me, bro. This is verse 8. It says, I'm going to jump back up to verse 8 to get some context on verse 8. It says, and shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods. When you go back up to verse 8, it shall carry captives. Well, I want to look this up first, just to double check. It says, during the Second Syrian War, which this is going back up a bit, I know, during the Second Syrian War. When is this? When did it talk about the Second Syrian War again? What verse was that?
Second. Here it says. Last part of the second, Ptolemy II, the king of the south, sent his daughter Bernice. Okay, so that's going to be back at when she did not retain the power of the arm, right here in verse 6 and 7. So verse 6, and in the end of years, they shall join themselves together. This is at the end of the Second Syrian War. For the king's daughter, which is Ptolemy's daughter, Bernice, of the south, shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, okay, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times. So remember, at the end of the Second Syrian War, they made a truce. That wedding, that marriage between Ptolemy and Seleucid, Ptolemy and Antiochus, that was the truce agreement. Okay, but that ended up going through because the first wife, I'm gonna look up her name. Her name was started with L, I
Her name was Laodicea.
believe. Laodicea.
But then you can go back to it. You can go back to it. We'll just continue where you were.
She shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, because he was poisoned by his first wife.
Yeah, we went into that already. You don't have to.
Okay, where do you want to start then? You want me to go back to verse 10?
Yeah, you can just continue where you were.
Okay, but his son shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up, even to his fortress. Okay, we is talking about Antiochus. Let me get this right here in commentary. Chuck Smith, verse 10. It says, then shall he be stirred up even to his fortress. Okay, it says, that is his sons, the king of the north, who was defeated by Euphrates. They will assemble a multitude of great forces. So that's talking about the king of the north, which was Antiochus. Verse 11 then it switches to the king of the south. Verse 11 says, and the king of the south, which is Philopator, Ptolemy Philopator, the king of the south, shall be moved with choler, which is bitterness, and shall come forth and fight with him. All right. Right here in the commentary, it says, this is Philopator, who is the Ptolemy Philopator, who was the king of the south at this time. He gathered together a great army against the king of the north. However, he defeated him. It says, though he defeated him and took a lot of loot, the guy did not make take full advantage of this and subjugate the people. He was too interested in the lentitious life. I believe that means lavish. Okay, he was too interested in the lavish life that he was living in Egypt. Okay, it says, and so where it says he will cast down many 10,000s, which if you go to
What verse are you on?
verse 11, even the king of the north, and he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. Okay, and when he had taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. Okay, it says he was too interested in his lavish life that he was living in Egypt. And so where it says he will cast down many 10,000s, he did destroy a lot of the army, but he will not be strengthened by it. He didn't take advantage of it. He just went back and lived a life of luxury and licentiousness in Egypt. Okay?
Yeah, let's get to verse 12, and then once you finish verse 12, bro.
Yeah, that was verse 12 right there. And when he had taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up. This is talking about Philopator, okay? And he shall cast down many 10,000s. Okay, so he actually was winning the war against Antiochus, his son. Okay, it says, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it, because he was living a life of a life of a king. Okay, he was indulging in the finer things in life, people like to say. So he basically was becoming lazy in the war. Okay, so that's verse 12. He was interested in litigious life that he was living in Egypt, and so where it says here, he will cast down many 10,000s. He did destroy a lot of army, but he will not be strengthened by it. He didn't take advantage of it. So he basically was kind of lackadaisical in the way he was going about warfare. All right. Verse 13 says, for the king of the north shall return and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former. Okay. And shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches. Okay, commentary says, so the king of the north came back again, which was Antiochus Meges. Antiochus Meges.
What verse are you on now?
That's 13.
Okay, let's just stop there to make another video. Something else. Cause I'm just confused. I don't even.
Do you have a commentary on your phone?
No, it's just
Which part are you confused
I'd rather
on?
speak on. No, I get it, but I'd rather just. I feel like it'll be easier if we just break it down like you. Is it be an easier breakdown to
Okay.
one person wants to break it down.
Okay. I mean, all right, if you want to.
But we can speak on like something else. It's more easier topic for me because it's
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of history in here. Which one do you want to go into?
let's just end the video and then start.
Yeah, we'll do another one. I'll start another one. But what chapter you want to go into?
Let's go into another topic like the heathens about the heathens.
Okay. Let me do this.
Salvation.